These are 10 advanced tips for creating a custom AI agent within SharePoint so that you can have a smooth creation process, as well as some tricks for testing and troubleshooting your agent. So with that being said, let's nerd out. Here we are in SharePoint, and today at Amy's Animal Shop, we are going to create an agent to help our sales team for our dog apparel line. Creating an agent, we can just go up to this Create an Agent button on the ribbon, or if you want to create an agent just on a specific folder, in our case, we have a folder of product sheets, or you could even have one on just policies, then you can select the folder, go up to the ellipses, and select Create an Agent. I would not worry too much about the sources that you select when creating the agent, because we are going to dive into some advanced customizations for the sources in just a moment. And here we are. Our agent is ready. So we can see how easily we can create these agents, but when we get down to those customizations, there are some specific items to be aware of in order to tailor it to your needs. So from here, you can either open your agent and start to test it out right away, or we can edit it in the back end to customize it further. From the edit window, we can see that we have an identity tab, sources, as well as behavior. And you'll also notice that there are some placeholders here, which is a great way to get started. But if you want to really customize your agent, then you're going to want to replace some of this content, and it is a bit difficult to think about what you should even put there. So I have a little trick. You will ask Copilot. So I have a prompt here that I will also include in the description, letting Copilot know that we're creating a custom Copilot agent in Microsoft SharePoint. Ask me a series of questions to gather information to draft a name, description, starter prompts, and instructions to the agent. So we can see that it has now listed out a bunch of questions here that we need to answer, and then it can create a draft AI agent for us. So in the Edit in Pages button, we get a loop page that has now opened, and you can enter in your information here. We can say the purpose is, and just answer all of these questions based on your desired outcome for your agent. Once you have finished answering these questions, then you will go through, you will copy all of this, paste it as a response. Once you have your answers in there, we can see that it is now suggesting a name to be SalesMate. So here we have a nice starter for our agent. Back in our editor window, under identity, we can now update the name. Now, I would recommend using something that is descriptive of the purpose of this agent. So although I liked my Copilot ones, I am going to name this one Dog Apparel Sales Agent. And I would also recommend updating the logo here. It has just taken the default icon from this team, which is not going to really be a distinguishing factor. So if we change this, then we can add our logo for this agent, and you'll see why I like having these as unique identifiers a little bit later in the video. Moving on to the description, you guessed it, I also recommend ensuring that this is an actual description of this agent. So right now, just saying it's an agent curated based on the content from the selected file sources is quite vague. And this description is going to be visible as a snapshot to people that are using your agent when you go and share it, which we will look at the end of the video. So I'm just going to tweak it slightly. And instead, we're going to say that this is an agent curated for our dog apparel sales team based on the content from our About Us and Dog Apparel team. So we can see how updating this, somebody can understand how this agent can help them at a glance. Moving along to sources. At the top here, there is a disclaimer, which we will come back to this permission bit in just a moment. But the other key thing here is that we can select up to 20 sources for our agent. So sources could be files, folders, document libraries, sites. So any combination up to 20 is what is currently supported at the time of recording this video. So let's now move along, and as we saw in the description, I'm also going to be pulling an About Us file for this agent to work off of. So we are going to also add another SharePoint site. So I'm going to search for our operations team, as that's where the About Us file is stored. And then source from our entire site is not what I want to do. I want to select a specific file. So I'm going to add, and we will go to general. And then there is that About Us page. So this About Us page has our company mission, vision, and values. And this is the kind of language that I want to embed into the behavior of this agent when it is responding, as it is our sales team. So we always want to be reiterating what our mission is, what our value is, who we are, and why we stand out to competitors. So now that I've selected that file, we will select, and then now we can see that just this file is going to be referenced as a source from the operations team. Now down here, we have the dog apparel site, which is what we have been working off of. And when we created the agent, we defined the product sheets folder, but I'm actually going to remove that, and we are going to source this from the entire site. I want this agent to be a bit dynamic when it is helping our sales team. So I don't want it to be limited to just one section of our SharePoint site or Microsoft team. So now that we have our sources in there, we can go back up to here, and it says users must have permissions to these sources for an optimal experience. So what that means is that I have now added 2 SharePoint sites or 2 Microsoft Teams as a source to this agent. We have our operations team, and we also have our dog apparel team. So in order for this agent to work optimally, anybody that I share this agent with will need to have permissions to both of these teams. So that's how Copilot and AI works, is it inherits the permissions and has access to all of the information that you already have access to. So it's not going to be able to provide information from the operations team to somebody that doesn't already have permissions from it. Now let's move on to behavior. So at the top here, we have our welcome message as well as starter prompts. And these are both visible in the window when we open up our agents. We can see the welcome message there. And then these are the prompts that team members or yourself can select to start to chat with your agent. For this welcome message, I'm quite happy with it. I am just going to add sales here just to remind our team members where they are when they do land at this agent. Then for the starter prompts, I'm going to update these. So the first one, I'm going to say, give me the top 3 features of, and this /, when we press /, it pops up a new pane here, and then it allows team members to easily select files so that the agent can now reference that document specifically. The next prompt I'm going to update to help me with our company's sales process. I'm on step blank, and just putting these brackets here with blank prompts the team member to insert the process that they are on at the moment. And the final prompt that I'm going to add is a little bit more complex. So it says draft a 5-minute elevator pitch about our blank price point and blank apparel type products for me to present to the client next week. So let me show you this. It's a little bit more sophisticated. So here I am in the documents library, and if I go to the product sheets folder, then we are going to see that I have the price point and apparel type as well as brand metadata that has been added to this library. So this is where our team member can specify, hey, give me an elevator pitch on the budget and premium dog life jackets. So we are going to now add instructions to this agent in the behavior on how it can reference this metadata, and we can train it to respond the way that we want it to. Moving along to the instructions for the agent, this is such an important piece when we are creating these custom agents, as this is where we define how the agent is going to engage with the user. And when you test out your agent and you troubleshoot it, this is going to likely be the area that you are going to be tweaking to make sure that your agent is operating the way that you want it to. So I have already created quite a lengthy piece of instructions here, just from my experience from creating this tutorial. So let's take a look at each of those items and I'll explain to you what they are, why they've been added, so that you can decide which pieces are relevant to you. Okay, so here are my instructions. Now, when you create your own instructions, what I would recommend is starting smaller, testing and troubleshooting, and then adding to this. I think that this is best kept simpler. Otherwise, you might confuse the agent, but build on it to ensure that it's going to operate the way that you want it to. So at the top here, we say when highlighting product features, use a bulleted list format and each feature must be bolded. So this is just where I'm going to define the layout for one of my prompts, and we will see a demonstration of what that looks like in a little bit. Next, we have the metadata reference. So as we just saw with the document library, how we have that different metadata and those different columns, this is just where I'm explaining to the agent what those are and how I want it to use that metadata. And I've also saying to reference products exclusively from our business, which is Amy's Animal Shop, as indicated in the brand column from the document library. Because the domain name that I'm practicing on is actually Office Skills with Amy and Amy's Animal Shop is fictitious, I have had to specify what our business is. But if you are operating in a tenant where your domain that the business is on is the same as the brand, then you might not need to include this. I haven't been able to test it out, but I just want to add that here. And then next, I'm saying do not provide competitor products such as brand column of the document library, such as Wazoo Pets, unless specified. Now, one thing when you want the agent to not do something is to provide an example. So the example here is Wazoo Pets. So then it's able to recognize what I'm trying to say in an example so that it can use those instructions accurately. Then moving on to accuracy, we have ensure that all product information, including features, materials, and prices, is sourced directly from the document library. So I did have a couple of prompts when I was testing where it was actually just making up some of my products. So I had to reinstate, hey, use only this information and also specifying the features, the materials, and the prices directly from the document library. Again, accurately reflect the data in the brand and the price point columns. I did notice that when it was providing information, it was mix matching some of those columns. I'm not sure how that's happened, but that is just something to be aware of. So, as we are using AI and adjusting to it, always check the information for accuracy. Then do not generate or infer product details that are not explicitly mentioned in the provided documents. So this is similar to this first one here, but this is providing specifics on the information to highlight. And then this is more of like a general, only do this or don't do this. Then moving on to language and tone, which is something that you always want to define when you're working with AI, is use the language from the About Us Word document, including our mission, vision, and values. So that is that document that we selected from the operations team that our agent is going to be working off of. So now I've provided instructions to it on how I want it to use that information. As a salesperson in this example, we explicitly want to be, reiterating what our brand is, what our values are. We are a pet apparel company. We, value sustainable products. We love pets. We value the outdoors and that kind of thing. So as a salesperson, you want to ensure that your brand is aligned. Even HR, you want to ensure that the way that you promote your company, which are going to be your mission, vision, and values, are going to be promoted to new hires. So I think that adding an About Us document or something similar is a great way to use that language and constantly be, adding it in and just curating and aligning that brand. Then we have maintain a friendly and professional tone, embodying the persona of a knowledgeable salesperson who understands the needs of the customers. So this is us specifically saying how we want this agent to be, which we of course would want all salespeople to be someone that's understandable as well as knowledgeable friendly, and professional. And last here at the bottom, we have always refer to the company as Amy's Animal Shop. So this is just going to create consistency when it is mentioning Amy's Animal Shop, and then also ensure that all references to the company are consistent and accurate. That is sort of a blanket statement, but that is just in there as well. And I've just found that that is what works. So when you are creating these instructions, like I said before, start simple, test it, troubleshoot it, and then build. Less is more on the instructions. We, of course, want to cover everything, but we don't want to confuse it. So let's now test out our agent. To test out our agent, we can use this preview pane on the right-hand side. You see it says test this agent, but I personally like to test mine within the document library so that I can reference the documents and ensure that it is pulling the accurate information. So let's save our agent. And then now when we close it up here, and we are going to see this dog apparel sales agent file added to our document library. So this is the agent that we have just created, and it is visible as a file format within the document library that you have created it in. And it is already launched on the right-hand side. But if we close out of here, if you select this, then it's going to open up in a big window, which again, I'm not able to reference the documents here. So I like to close out of there. And then this time, select the ellipses, go open, and then go sidebar view. So this allows me to chat and engage with my agent while also referencing my documents, which is very important to ensure that your agent is operating accurately when we are creating it, testing it, and troubleshooting any issues. Okay, so let's first test out those bulleted list items when we are talking about those key features. Now we can just reference a file. Let's go down to this Adventure Dog Life Jacket. We'll enter, and we're just going to see that it's working through our request. It is now referencing that product. It has provided us with the reference there. And so we can see that that is actually the file that we have mentioned up above, which is just a good thing to keep an eye on. And then now here are all of those features. So we open up this document. We can see that those key features are the enhanced buoyancy, which is accurate, ergonomic design, which is also accurate, and then that quick release straps, which is also accurate. So that is working. And I really just like how the feature is bolded and then the description is not bolded. I love visual aspects. So that is why I had that bulleted list comment in the instructions for the agent. Next, we are going to test out this elevator pitch prompt. So I'm going to go into our product sheets just so that you can see it. And if we insert this prompt, then now I'm just going to update this blank. So the price point, I'll do premium. And for the apparel type, I want this to be dog life jacket. So we will see that it's working on the request. And here is our elevator pitch. So there is a lot of juicy, good stuff in here. So it's starting off by just saying a little bit about us, what our mission is. And today we want to introduce you to our premium dog life jackets. Then it, why do you want to do this? So proposing it as a sales pitch, as a question, and then talking about those key features. Then it even talks about durable materials, as well as stylish and functional. And so those are actually items that are from the About Us. So it's even pulled that in from the About Us document, has now added it into the product features just to keep that brand alignment. Then it talks about our commitment to the quality and sustainability, customer-centric approach, and then join our family. But one thing that it hasn't done here is actually state which product it is referencing. Give me the product name. Now, this is just something that you have to do when you are engaging with AI. You need to have a conversation with it. It just created an elevator pitch for me in like 30 seconds. So if it missed out on the name of the document, I can just ask it and it's going to be okay. So Now it said, hey, that's the Adventure Dog Life Jacket, which is actually the one that we had just referenced in the previous. We can see how this agent is now working off of the product information sheet based on the metadata that I directed it to, and then tying in the brand from our About Us document. So I would say that this is actually working pretty good. And if you want it to update the elevator pitch to include the product name, you can just have a conversation, just ask it to. So update the elevator pitch to include the product name. And now it is going to take the product name and update the elevator pitch so that you can easily copy it and then move it into whichever document you would like to work on this information with next. So we can see that it's there. There is that nice copy button. If we just go on up, then it should be right here, which is the Adventure Dog Life Jacket. So I would say that this agent is working very well, but trust me, it took time to get this to where I wanted it to be. So let's now dive into some of my troubleshooting techniques so that you can have a similar experience. This is a real life example of me troubleshooting with the agent when I was creating this tutorial. Here I've said, what are our medium price point products? And here it has given me that completely made up list of products, including features and prices. So this is completely irrelevant, completely made up, and inaccurate information. So then I said, all of this response is completely made up. How do I get you to only follow your instructions? It says, I apologize, and so on. And then I said, how do I update your instructions so that you don't make up information again? I do apologize for my spelling here. I was just typing really fast. You'll see that a little bit throughout this tutorial section. By specifically asking the agent, what do you need to update in the instructions is a really good tactic. So now it's giving me a generic response of how to update the instructions for the agent. So it's okay. You just need to be patient and just have a conversation with it. I think that having a conversation with the agent, asking it specifically what to update, is going to be a lot faster and more precise than you troubleshooting your agent for hours trying to get it to respond the way that you want it to. So we'll see here, we've got this generic response. So then I've responded and said, provide me a specific sentence that I can add to my instructions to fine tune them. And then this time it has provided this snippet here, which was actually exactly what was in the instructions. So I think at this stage I have confused the agent, but this is all part of the learning process. Next, I said, this is exactly what is in there, but your response here is completely made up and inaccurate. What can I add to my instructions to prevent this from happening again? And you'll notice that I have literally copied its response. So I am clearly directing it to the information that is inaccurate. And this is a really good strategy when you are chatting with the agent to try and troubleshoot it. And it says, ensure that all product information, including features, materials, and prices, are sourced directly from the document library and accurately reflects the data in the brand and price points column. And this is exactly how I got to this piece of information. So this is a little bit of a roundabout way chatting with the agent, but just shows you how you can just use real language and just providing it with clear instructions. Even if you do confuse it, take a step back, copy the inaccurate information, say this is inaccurate. What sentence do I need to add to my instructions in order for you to not do this again? Once you have troubleshooted with your agent, if you need to go back and edit any of the instructions, which I'm quite confident that you will need to adjust some things when you are creating these more tailored agents to customize a specific experience, select the ellipses here and go edit. So this brings us back to the edit pane where you can toggle to the behavior and then go on down to your instructions and tweak and adjust those as needed. You may also need to adjust your sources, so keep that in mind as well, as this is information that your agent is operating off of as well. But I do feel that most of your tweaks from troubleshooting your agent will fall under the instructions section within the edit window. So now that our agent has been edited and tweaked and troubleshooted and is ready to go, we can share it with our team members. So let's exit out of here. We'll go to the ellipses again, but this time we are going to go copy a link for Teams. We can see that we have a link copied and we can paste it in a Teams group chat to add this agent. If you select this settings pane, then that's going to bring up the file sharing experience. So the agent is treated like a document, and this is a document sharing settings as well. So that is another option for sharing your agent. But in this tutorial, we are going to take a look at specifically within a Teams chat. So here we are in our Teams chat, and this is where I'm going to paste that link so that I can now essentially add this agent into our chat so that we can chat with it just like another coworker to quickly gain insights. So I've already added this chat to this message thread. That's why this added to the chat button is grayed out. But when you do copy and paste that link and press enter to send the message, then this typically goes gray, and then you can select it, and then that agent is added to the chat. Once it's added in there, then we can go at and then dog apparel, and we can see the suggestions is that agent. What are the first 3 steps of our sales process? We can see how this little icon here is actually really helpful. When we hover over it, we have the name of the agent as well as the description of the agent. So that's where those items are helpful, and you're having a accurate description that provides any of your team members with some information about the agent. This response from the agent is actually perfect because Mike has been removed from the operations team. So the permissions that the SharePoint site is sourced from don't align with somebody in the team's chat. So the agent is letting me know, and now I have an opportunity to review the content and either approve it or decline it. So we go view response. Then we will see a response here. It also lets me know which documents are somebody doesn't have access to, and then you can either send or don't send. So if we send it, then now we can watch the agent provide us with those first 3 steps of our sales process. So if you're chatting with a team member on the fly, you can use agents to quickly gather information to streamline communication rather than taking a step back, looking for the sales process, reading through it, identifying the 3 steps, and then continuing on with the collaboration. So this is a good example of how we can use agents to collaborate with us in Teams chats. Another place that I find helpful to add the link for your agent is on your Teams homepage. So if we go up to the edit icon, then we can now add a new link. So from a link, we will paste that and then add. There are some additional settings on the side, so we can just, remove the .agent to simplify it, and then now republish. So when anybody lands on this team homes page, then they can just select that agent, and now they can start to collaborate with the agent and gather insights based on the documents sourced from the agent. And also just to note here, this link will only work here for people that have a 365 Copilot license. For new 365 Copilot license features, check out this video here or view this suggested video by YouTube.